In this video, I want to share some recommendations regarding the use of communication radios. We're going to divide this topic into two types of usage: for sports use, aimed at experienced pilots, and for instructional use of the radio. If you're a recreational pilot just looking to communicate with your flight companion without needing instruction, then in this case, getting a cheap radio from Amazon, eBay, or AliExpress for around $20, like the Baofeng models, these Chinese radios that have recently come out in recent years, would work just fine. These radios operate on VHF and UHF frequencies. Their main feature is that they're extremely cheap, costing around $20, and they work quite well, despite having low power. When we have longer distances, not even that long really, just a separation of about 3 to 4 kilometers, the signal starts to degrade. Communication starts to fail, and sometimes, let's say that 100% of our transmissions, only 70 to 80% of them reach, and the rest doesn't make it. So they can fail often, but for our recreational or casual use, they're okay. The investment is low and they work fine for that little investment. But if you require a radio for instructional purposes in paragliding, they're not a good choice. We can't afford for our student to receive only 80% of our instructions. They need to receive 100% of our instructions with 100% clarity. So, if you run a paragliding school or fly with less experienced, novice pilots who need some direction or guidance, you need to have good radios, both for the person transmitting and the person receiving. For example, in the school, we use these radios, the Motorola EP450 models. They're very reliable, industrial grade, robust, resistant, with a powerful speaker and powerful transmission. In fact, we've tested them at distances over 15 kilometers, and the transmission and reception were still connected. On the topic of using radios for instruction, I'd like to give some recommendations. The first one I already mentioned is buying a good radio, a reliable branded one. These radios aren't cheap. They cost around $400 or more, and usually, these industrial-grade radios need their channels and frequencies to be programmed via a computer. You can't do it physically on the radio itself. This brings some advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage is that we have to pre-program our channels in advance. But the big advantage is that it's harder for the student to accidentally change the frequency in mid-air. Without the ability to access frequency changes, the student's radio stays on the same channel all the time. In fact, if we have 5 or 10 channels, we could set all 10 to the same frequency, so that even if the student accidentally changes the dial, they won't switch frequencies. At our school, we use radios without screens. They have preset channels that we program via computer, which reduces the chance that the student might accidentally change the frequency while flying. Obviously, radios with screens can be locked, but since they can also be unlocked, sometimes we might unlock them to make an adjustment, forget to lock them again, and hand them to the student. If the student presses any button mid-flight, they might change the frequency or mess up the radio's settings. So even if the lock button is there, we have to be very careful to keep it locked whenever we hand the radio to the student. Another recommendation is to get used to using the radio correctly. Some novice instructors press the PTT, the button we use to transmit, and start speaking immediately. Remember, you need to wait a second or two after pressing before you start speaking, because if you press and speak at once, the student might miss the first few words of your message, which could be crucial. For example, if I want to say, "Don't break anymore," and I say, "Don't break anymore," the student might miss the "don't" and hear only "break more," which could be very dangerous. So remember to press, wait, and then speak. When speaking, we need to be clear, precise, and loud enough to be heard clearly, but it's very important not to shout. If we yell anxiously or panicked over the radio, the student will pick up on that emotion and will get scared, worried, or stressed out. So even if we're speaking loudly, we should speak slowly and in a way that conveys calmness, indicating that everything is under control. If I speak slowly, loudly, and clearly, the student will get that sense of security. In some situations, instructions need to be given quickly because the student might be on the verge of a collision or in an emergency. In those cases, we do need to give instructions quickly, but without stumbling over our words, as calmly as possible. In non-emergency situations, we should speak slowly. We have all the time in the world. The slower, clearer, and louder we speak, the better the student will understand the message we're trying to convey. Even if the student is in a serious emergency, in a collapse, spinning, or on the verge of crashing, we must remain calm and not shout. We should say, "Okay, stay calm, shift your weight to the opposite side, it's going to be fine, you're doing well." Because if we say, "Oh no, 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 don't, what are you doing?" the student will freeze up and won't understand the message. Our communication will become ineffective. Finally, how should I position myself relative to the radio? I shouldn't place my mouth too close to it, as that would make the message unclear. I should maintain a distance of about 4 to 5 centimeters from the radio. That's ideal. If it's windy, I need to shield the radio with my hand. That's the best way to speak clearly over the radio. It's also important to know where to place the radio for the student. Many harnesses come with a pocket on the shoulder. That's really useful. It's close enough to the student's ears. If there's no pocket, you can use a chest-mounted radio holder at this height, which works well too. These setups have worked well for me. I don't recommend using a string to hang the radio, as it might swing around, and the PTT button could get pressed inadvertently, causing a loss of communication. So, I don't recommend hanging the radio. Use a chest holder or harness pocket instead. Those work well. Don't place the radio in the side pockets or behind the harness, as it would be too far away, and no matter how loud the speaker is, the further the radio is from the student's ears, the higher the chance they won't hear you well. Also, when doing particularly challenging flights or first-time altitude flights, which are crucial for your student, it's a good idea for them to have 2 radios. They can be on different frequencies to avoid interference, but having 2 radios for both the student and instructor. If one radio fails due to a dead battery, accidental drop, or frequency change, you have the other one as a backup. This is what I do for critical flights. For example, the first coastal flight at Miraflores, where the student needs to do a top landing over the city. If the student loses radio contact on their first flights, it could put their life at risk. You can also do this for mountain or altitude flights, or when the conditions are tricky. Using a second radio won't compromise safety. On the contrary, it gives you a backup. It's not redundant. It's a necessary precaution that could save a student's life. That's it for this video on radios. If you found it interesting, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and if you have any other radio tips, leave them in the comments below. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.